So good morning, everybody. So I want to pick up on chapter 14 here, and we talked about dividends, how dividends are administered, and I'd like to just discuss a little about how when companies buy back shares, otherwise known as repurchases. All right, so there's a couple of different ways here. All right, and basically the first one is called an open market share repurchase. And that's a share repurchase program in which firms simply they buy back some of the outstanding shares, and it's done on the open market with people who like you and me who just own shares, right? Okay, so I mean, and that's pretty common. And then there's a tender offer repurchase, and the company offers to repurchase a fixed number of shares, usually at a premium. And this is where the stockholder will make money relative to the market value. And shareholders decide whether or not they want to sell back their shares at that price. So this is the a way to make money instead of a dividend. Okay, then there's the infamous Dutch auction, and the company will specify how many shares they want to buy back, and there's a range of prices that they're willing to pay to repurchase them, and investors will specify how many shares they will sell at each price. And then the minimum price is the share price that the company will pay. So I think there's an example of a Dutch auction right here. So here's a Dutch auction, and basically announced that they wanted to repurchase 86 million shares at a price in this range, right, 29 to 31.50. And you'll notice here the number of shares that were tendered, okay, at the different prices, right? And here's the cumulative total of the shares. So 5 and 10 is 15, and another 15 is 30. So it appears that at a price of 31.25, shareholders are going to be willing to tender. You see, 86 million, right? Exactly the amount they want, and that's the price the company will pay, 31.25. So that's the mechanics of a Dutch auction. Hold on here. Okay, let me fix that. All right. So there's different tax consequences with regard to dividends and share repurchases. So dividends were taxed, right? They were double taxed. The company paid taxes on the dividends they shelled out, and then you paid taxes. And I don't know what the current tax plan is for repurchase shares, but they used to be lower. So, when you did a repurchase. So, you could check the IRS and see what the current tax treatment is. I know dividends is just your ordinary income, but what the tax treatment is for shareholder repurchases. All right, so there's stuff here. So here's we're back in 2003. The tax treatment of corporate dividends, they tell you here, went from 5 to 15%, depending on the tax bracket. But I know this is significantly different now. So, and back in 2012, they extended the 15% rate on capital gains and dividends for taxpayers in all but the highest bracket. But again, you have to check what the current IRS restrictions are on paying taxes. All right, so anyway, so there's some stuff here about paying the taxes. All right, there's a little personal finance example here that you can just look through, and this again goes back to the date of record and ex dividend and whether or not they're going to get the taxes and everything we talked about, and when you're going to get the dividend check, the date when you're going to get the check. So this is a nice little example of what we previously went through in the first part. All right, so dividend reinvestment plans, instead of getting a dividend check in the mail, they take the dividend you're going to get and they buy more shares. And that's what I do. In my stock account, I just tell them take all the dividends I'm going to get and just buy more shares. This way I don't have to pay any commission. So I buy more shares that way, and it's called a dividend reinvestment plan, and it's nice to have. So I don't think I buy them at a cheaper price, to be honest with you. But so in a theoretical sense, when a dividend's paid, the stock is trading ex dividend. The stock price will fall by the amount of the dividend, but then the next day or so it bounces right back. And when a firm does a stock buyback, there's really not much. There's not much different. The price doesn't vary that much. All right, so as you know, as it states here, there's a lot of theories about payout policy, right? And whether or not they hold in real life is, you know, something that you have to, carefully look at. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. All right, so then, like I said, there's a lot of theories about dividends, right? So the residual theory of dividends is a thought that suggests that the dividend paid by a firm should be viewed as a residual. All right, after everything else, all the investment opportunities have been undertaken. All right, so you could read up on this theory here. All right, Miller and Modigliani, otherwise known as the M&M boys, basically said that dividends were irrelevant. In a perfect world, this was their theory right here. In a perfect world, no taxes, no transaction costs, and no other imperfections in the market, the value of the firm is unaffected by the distribution of dividends. And of course, their theory does not satisfy the perfect market. There are imperfections in the stock market. All right, and the last one here is called the clientele effect. And again, the payout policy affects different investors, but again does not change the overall value of the firm. And there's a couple other theories that you can go through here if you'd like. All right, so I mean, again, when I receive my dividend reinvestments, I don't really think about these theories too much. And here's one idea that says, shareholder studies have shown large changes in dividends do affect share price. All right, so what affects the dividend policy is there's five factors that come into play, right? Legally, what the contractual constraints, can we pay a dividend and how much do we pay? Do we want to pay a dividend or do we keep the money and retained earnings and grow the company? Okay, and how's the overall market doing? So we don't want the stock price to be affected if we decide to change our mind and not pay a dividend. All right, I'll stop here and we'll pick up again. All right, everybody have a good day.